Sometimes the hardest person to believe in is yourself. My guest has reinvented herself time and time again through family conflict, loss, uncertainty, and heartbreak. Yet through every chapter, she's held on to one belief: the story you tell yourself matters. We explore what it means to become your own best friend, why gratitude can transform your perspective, and how to keep moving forward even when life doesn't go according to plan. Here's my conversation with Terry Bean. Welcome to Overcome with Travis White. If any of these stories resonate with you, please leave us a review and give us a follow. Please enjoy the show. Terry, why don't you start us off by telling the audience about yourself?
Absolutely. And thank you, Travis White. I really appreciate you having me on your podcast. And I'm excited to speak to you and your audience about Terry Bean, which is what people typically call me in full. My name, Terry Bean. So, once again, thank you for having me. I am based out of New York, Whitestone, Queens, New York. And I grew up here actually in a family that back when, imagine this, in 63, it was blended. So blended wasn't even a term, Travis, in 63. They didn't even know what that was. Now everybody has
Yeah.
blended families, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I have the half brothers and sisters, and they came from both of my parents who had their respective divorces, right? Before they got married and had me. So I'm their only child, right? Which put a lot of pressure on me because they were still dealing with a lot of some animosity and just the whole navigation, that a family has to go through with, respective divorces and the kids and the whole thing. And all I wanted was happy. That's all I wanted. And there was a lot of angst. So when I would step out of my elevator here in Queens, which I'm here now in the home I grew up with, and believe it or not, because I have my elderly mom that I take care of. She's 92, which is another journey I can talk about. Oof. So I grew up feeling like I really, at a very early age, had control on, like, I got this. I mean, I sat down and sang Billy Joel, "This Is My Life" to my parents when I was 11. So, I mean, because I thought everybody else was absolutely out of their minds and neurotic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was kind of taking on this whole personal development journey at a very, very early stage in my life. Just knowing that there had to be a choice, always had to be a choice in how I felt or some kind of responsibility. Now, don't get me wrong. I had so much drama early on between the family and my angst with mom and the whole deal that, you know, I, I, I think about it, about being a victim. And I think, when we have such drama constantly going on around us, we can exactly that, become the victim and decide that life is happening to us. Right? We're not choosing it at all, and we're pissed off at anybody and everybody in our circle because 'cause they're making this happen to us.
Yes, and it's hard to get out of that victim mentality. Very hard.
Really, really, really hard, and part of it is because we retell the story and the narrative that's gonna validate us being a victim. So the story is being told over and over. I remember telling the story because I was a rebellious kid. I was super rebellious because of everything that was going on, and all I wanted was my independence, right? And that's why I knew I had this, right? I got this. So it's amazing how many times and how many different people I told the story to, right? And now it's like I don't want the drama at all. I mean, I literally left once I was in New York, I went to Connecticut for about 10 years and I left Connecticut to go down to Florida. I had the option to come back to New York where my family was. I said, "Oh, no, I'm not. I can't take the neuroses. I gotta get away." And I did, and I ended up going down to Florida for close to 30 years, which is amazing. Yeah.
And so now you're back and you've basically done a full circle and right back there where you grew up.
It's really nuts because mom, my sister, and I actually had a bout of 3 years of no communication when I was 50. So as I said, I was born in '63. So, that's what, 12 years ago
Mhm.
or so that we had 3 years of no communication. I was the one that handed out the olive branch, um, which was very typical. And because I realized, no one likes being extricated from their family. No one likes being ostracized in any which way, right? And I realized that uh, I don't want my mom to go, to leave this planet without me reconnecting with her. I, it just didn't feel right.
That's
So I did whatever I can. And through my personal development journey, I'll be honest with you, if I didn't have these tools, there would be no way I could sit here in this house right now. No way. I mean, listen, not to say this, she pushes buttons all the time. Tonight was one of those times when I looked at her, I said, listen, I said, can we have one night without arguing? Is it possible? I have one night where you're not raising your voice. No. And one thing I learned in doing this and working with people in general is a great uh, piece that I've learned lately is to be the observer. You become the observer. You don't become the judge. You don't become the mother either, which is very easy to do when you have a 92-year-old because they really do seem like 3-year-olds, you know. Sometimes it's like it's out of control.
and
But when you just kind of sit and observe and not always react, and if you feel like you're reacting, you kind of stop and you breathe and you think before you actually speak. My father used to say that all the time. He used to point to his head and say, THINK, think. He would always say that to me. It's funny how that came up. I lost my dad about 15 years ago, 15, 16, and he was like my biggest fan, you know. I really adored him. And we had a really fun time together. We just would get silly and laugh and loved slapstick and all this stuff. And, mom couldn't stand any of that. Right. So mom was kind of jealous of my relationship with my father. I mean, it was, it's nuttiness that people go through because the majority of us don't grow up with any kind of a EQ, emotional, quotient. They really don't. So I can't talk to my mom now and say to her things like, can you really listen to yourself when you talk to me? Yeah, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to understand.
yeah, and I can think of multiple people in my life like that where it's like and I guess I think it's come down to I just learned to set boundaries, and those relationships I can't aren't always the way I expect them to be, but I set those boundaries and don't cross this line. And I figure, you know what? I can be fine without holding those types of conversations and asking those types of questions.
Yeah, it's smart. Well, that's part of protecting ourselves, right?
Yep,
And we have to
correct.
we have to understand our needs and what those expectations are. And always understand that if you have a uncommunicated expectation, it's not an expectation anymore.
Mhm.
You can't. And this is one thing I do say to my mom and other people. I say, "I can't read your mind. Can't read your mind. Tell me what truly tell me what you need and what you want." And setting those, boundaries and parameters are extremely important, especially when you're a caretaker, whether it's a parent or not, that you're caretaking as a child, or even if you're a parent of a young one, you
Hmm.
know? It's really, really important to have those. Yeah. It's structure that I think we all need in some way.
Yeah, I agree. So it sounds like from what you've described, you kind of mentioned before that you moved out of your parents' house and uh, moved around a little bit. Almost to me, sounds like you reinvented yourself a few times. What allowed you to do that?
Many, many, many times. I always say this in many of the pods that I'm on. I always feel like I'm a cat that has more than 9 lives. You know, I've landed many times, and it started, quite frankly, at the age of, like, 11, 12. I mean, I'm in Queens, New York. Queens, New York people were very streetwise, you know? Not always so book smart, but definitely streetwise. Um, and and people were always my thing, like, just being super in tune with how people tick. Right? The sociology of it, and it always intrigued me. You know, and decisions that people make and how they make them always intrigued me. And talking to people about what they're looking to do and what they're looking to create, and then connecting those dots for them sometimes in an out of box way, which I tend to do, has shifted many people's lives on my journey. There's no doubt. You know? And it's really quite fun to do, because you because when it happens, people will kinda look at me and say, "Oh my god, I didn't even think of that. That's unbelievable. That's fantastic." And then they get all excited, and it's really wonderful. I, to your question, yes, I had reinvented myself many, many times. I was in property management up in Connecticut. I then, my first job out of college was in Manhattan, but I went up to Connecticut, then property management, then knew that I was going to go to Florida and get my real estate license, and did what you call jam it in your brain real estate. You do 1 week and you jam it in your brain, you pass the course and you're done, and you get your license. And that's exactly what I did. And I did that for my broker's license as well of Florida. And I had 3 weeks, Travis White, of travel in my car, and I had a boyfriend at the time in Connecticut that I was leaving, right, to go to Florida, and he shut it was amicable. He shut the trunk of my car, and he said, "You can't open it until you get to Florida, because I don't think you'll be able to close it." Right? So I literally lived it was the most humbling experience. I lived out of a duffel bag. I had a client, he was with Volvo, lovely, lovely man that I adored back then, and it was a big duffel bag, and it said Volvo on it, because that was my client at the time, worked for them, and I had 2 teddy bears, and I had a recorder, and I recorded my entire trip down, and I have some unbelievable stories that are just phenomenal of that trip, that 3-week journey down. But it was so cathartic, to speak into that, and it's like talking to yourself, which is so important. Our self-talk is
Hmm.
so extremely important. That's where we create our beliefs, and again, the belief, is just a thought you really keep thinking. That's what a belief is. So then whatever you're thinking becomes your narrative and becomes your story. You don't like your story, you change your narrative, you know? This stuff is not new. It's not really that new. I
No,
just say
but
it into
it's something that I feel like we have to be reminded over and over again.
Oh,
It's
read
going
it.
back to that victim mentality where you just, like you said, repeat the same narrative over and over again. Well, you're the only one who can get yourself out of it.
It's so true. So very true.
So, looking back with all your life experiences, what chapter in your life do you believe taught you the most about resilience?
That's a phenomenal question. I'm gonna have to think on this for a second. You're gonna have to fill the air. Wait a second, let's see. I'm not sure. Oh my goodness. What part of my life? You know, when I left my when I left my last relationship, which was in 2016, I didn't know where I was gonna go. And I was leaving South Florida, and I was up here in the north driving for about a month. I just drove and hit all the places I love in New England, Rhode Island, and, Massachusetts. I just kept on driving around Delaware, and I came around and came back to Jersey, and I stayed at a friend's place in Jersey, and it was 25 degrees and snowing outside. And I said, I think I have to rethink this strategy. I said, I don't think the Northeast is good for me because I was stuck in the house. It was freezing and I really don't love cold. And I had lived in Florida for so long, but I didn't really like South Florida anymore. South Florida, I could see the writing on the wall when 95, they started to open up the lanes to 6 lanes like LA. I mean, I said, this is going to be another LA. And when it started to take me 45 minutes on Federal Highway, which is Route 1, on a trip that used to take me 15 minutes. Took me 45 minutes. On that day, I remember the day that I said, I'm out of here. I can't do this anymore. And that was it. And then traveling up there. And then I spoke to a good friend who had a home on Amelia Island and needed some assistance with her husband that was going through a hard time. And she needed assistance as well. And just said, "Hey, Terry, come to Amelia Island, come to Fernandina Beach," actually. She said, "I never heard of Fernandina Beach, but I had visited Amelia Island." It's just Amelia Island's very interesting it's a beautiful place. You know Jacksonville at all and that whole
N-
area? Oh my goodness.
no.
Amelia Island it's a really beautiful island. It is an island like Manhattan Island, okay, in this city. Pretty much the same square footage with 37,000 people on it versus how many in Manhattan? 1.8 million or something just on Manhattan Island. I mean, the contrast is outrageous, right? So you could cross that island in 10 minutes. Could take you 10 hours in traffic in Manhattan, but it's a beautiful, beautiful place. So when she said Fernandina, first of all, I couldn't even pronounce it. I think it took me like 2 weeks to pronounce the name of the place. I was really fumbling with Fernandina. And I visited, she said, Amelia Island. I said, oh my God, I was there and I stayed at the Ritz when I worked at a company um, for a bit in Boca Raton when I lived there. And uh, I said, "I didn't even know Fernandina visited." She said, "It's right on the island." And it's because the Ritz, the big hotels on that island, the Ritz and the Omni, they don't talk about downtown Fernandina Beach because they don't want the money to leave their resort. It's
That makes
amazing,
sense. Yeah.
right? So a lot of people didn't realize about it. And I would go to the south of the island where these hotels are, and I'd meet people sometimes at the bars and stuff, and they'd be, people who were staying at the island. And I said, "Have you been down to Fernandina? You have to go." Because it's a great little town. So it's going through its growing pains, but it's a great town. So I think, a lot of resilience. I mean, when you're driving, you don't know what your next step is gonna be, what your next you really have to dig deep to accept kinda your life at that moment of what's happening in the "I don't know" phase. And that goes for any stage of our life, you know? We can be in a relationship or in a job or anything where you're just at that point, you're not able to make the decision yet. And I think it's really important to give ourselves the time we need. Give ourselves grace. Don't make a decision out of fight or flight, and try not to make decisions out of fear, out of any of these things where you're going to step into something that in the long run is typically not going to pan out. And it's happened to me over and over again, but then again, you know, the resilience thereafter, you know, how long are you going to stay in that story that doesn't feel good, or that victimhood, or that beating yourself up because you don't know the way we do, because we feel like we have to know all the time. It's part of the problem with Google. We have people talking to each other who think they know everything, and everybody's talking over each other
Hmm.
because we have Google now and we think we know everything. It's absurd.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, it is. And my favorite now is uh, playing the you have symptoms of something that comes up, whether it's mental or physical, and then you go and search it on Google. So then you become a doctor.
yeah, it's amazing.
I
You
mean,
can
it's
imagine how
help,
much fun the doctors
it,
are having with that.
right? And I mean, it's
Poor
just like one of those things that's
they're
like
going nuts.
helpful sometimes, but other times like, okay, well, I'm just filling my head with junk that probably does not need to be there.
Yeah. It's true to an extent. I think it's really fantastic actually, especially when it comes to our health, honestly, because of Western medicine, and that's just a view I have, but I feel that the more we learn and the more there are research papers out there that we can take the time to do a deep dive into whatever is happening for us. But the key is that whatever road we take, that we believe it. I don't care if it's holistic, I don't care if it's Western, I don't care if it's Chinese, I don't care what it is. You better truly wholeheartedly
Yep.
believe it going in
Yep. Have some
without
conviction. Yep.
without a shadow of a doubt. And that is the tough thing, I think, for most people, because my feeling, Travis, is that the majority of humans walk around on this planet not feeling good enough. And if you don't feel good enough, you're gonna always be in doubt.
And what coming from your background, how do you uh, get someone to get on the path to start feeling good enough?
Well, a huge part is gratitude. So, you know, different tools are out there, whether they're gratitude journals and such, but make it real easy for yourself and wake up every morning and say three things that you're grateful for before you lift your head off the pillow. When you step down on the ground, say thank you. That's, by the way, a Wayne Dyerism. And if you know who Wayne Dyer is, or if you don't, please, for the Travis White people out there, look up The Shift. It's called. It's a movie. It's on YouTube, and it's Wayne Dyer, and it's absolutely phenomenal, which is very much in line with what we're talking about right now. He's just like the grandfather of it all. He was absolutely a beautiful soul. And I think, affirmations are quite important, though you have to get super real with yourself and then decide that you're going to give yourself grace. And there's a forgiving piece to this that's very important for individuals to forgive themselves over anything that's happened that they feel that they need to forgive themselves for. not only forgiving the other person, but forgiving themselves first and foremost is most important. And then and then ask for forgiveness to your inner child. Close your eyes, see yourself as a young child and see yourself as an adult sitting with your young child, with your young self, your young Travis as an adult, and just kind of sit there with each other with your eyes closed and have a conversation. Become your own best friend.
I
I
love it.
think becoming our own best friend is so important, because then we'll treat ourselves with more compassion and respect and love. And when we do that, we become kinder to other people around us. Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I feel a lot of times that if you don't truly love yourself, it's gonna be hard for you to accept and love the people around you.
Absolutely. Absolutely agreed. I think, I have to thank mom, interestingly enough, for saying that to me at a very young age. I remember that. I remember her saying that to me. So thanks, mom. I guess that's why I dedicated the book to her too. I have a page and I actually dedicated Abracadabra to her, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But everybody was so surprised because I had so much drama in my life and all this other stuff, and it was very much revolved around mom, right? The daughter,
Mhm.
mother, yeah, craziness, and uh, and I laugh about that, and I came full circle with it, with just understanding and appreciating that she is still here at 92. Yes, sometimes I could pull my hair out, but guess what? I'm quite grateful that we get to play Rummikub and every night, you know, and sing together sometimes and laugh together. And sometimes I get to bring her to a Broadway show, for her birthday, which was just an absolutely incredible day. And sometimes you do want to go back to those days that are just so beautiful with someone and talk about it together because it will raise both your vibration and you almost fall back into love like and everything else and respect for each other when you do that.
That's one of my favorite things to, actually do with my wife is just to talk about our past and, like, our dating years because we've been together for, like, 20-ish years or something like that. It's been a while.
Nice,
Maybe
congratulations.
not quite 20, but it's getting close. It feels like that, but I think I've known her for a little over 20 years now, but we have so many stories, and I could just reminisce about those stories, like, every day.
Yeah, yeah. It's really fun to do, and it's good that you're not. It's not about the elephant in the room and having to go back to the negative stuff, right? And the stuff where because that's where I think a lot of the relationships just break down because again, that's the narrative that you're focusing on. So you're choosing with your wife, Travis, which is brilliant to focus on the really great stuff, you know?
Mhm.
So, the holding hands and, the kissing under the moonlight or whatever it is. I mean, it's really lovely. So congratulations on doing that. That's super. You guys have kids?
We have 4 kids. Yeah,
Congratulations. That's
so
amazing.
pretty busy.
I can imagine. Give me the age range and what they are.
I have a 6-year-old girl,
Yay.
a 4-year-old
Names.
boy, so the 6-year-old is Ellie, and we
Ellie.
have, 4-year-old is Asher, 2-year-old is Hudson, and then
That's
a 2-month-old, Sawyer.
for you. And Sawyer's a girl
Nope,
or
a
boy.
boy. So
Wow.
3 boys and 1 girl, yep,
Congratulations. And the girl's the oldest.
yep,
Oh, God bless her. Oh,
yep,
boy. That's amazing. Oh, congratulations. That's beautiful. Mm.
thank you.
And
It's
tell your wife that she's special because I really feel that any woman who has more than 3 boys or 3 boys or more, as I say, because one of my very good friends has 3 boys, and I always say to her, I think truly that God, like, specially picked certain women, you know, to have 3 boys, and I know that women always say that boys are harder, but 3 boys? It's another animal to me. I mean, it's just it
Yeah,
would be from the outside in.
we know we have it coming for us, but, uh, our girl, I don't know if it's, like, the DNA from one of us, but she can stand her own ground. She's a little bit of sugar and spice, we'll say that.
Yeah, good for her. Well, she has to be
Yeah,
with 3. So she's right in the age for when we can transition here a little bit, where she's right in the age with, Abracadabra, my book.
yeah.
So my book is a 6 to 9-year-olds, and I also have a coloring book, which, by the way, goes up to I don't care how long old. And even Abracadabra itself, the illustrated book, I think I have it right here. The illustrated book goes to 71, at least. I had a 71-year-old man, Travis, who literally called me 1 month after the book was published and said, "Terry, I found your book." And he found me because I was in some business with him because I've changed so many businesses
Mhm,
so many times. But and he said to me, "I was on your list." So he was on my list and he happened to get it. And he got it for his granddaughter who was 12. But he read it. And at that point in his life, which is just this year, he had rheumatoid arthritis. And his PT group was just starting to talk to him um, how he needs to integrate, just positive talk and mindset. So he reads my book for the 4 to for the for the 6 to 9. I said, "Terry, changed my life." He said, "I'm reading it every night." It's unbelievable, and his review is actually on, Amazon. Beautiful soul who bared it to me and about his granddaughter as well that he's very concerned about and wanted to get the book for her. And, yeah, it was really, really special, and that's when I realized that, wow, this book is going to literally span generations. How amazing. How absolutely incredible. So now I'm on the journey. The book is written. Of course, I don't have enough reviews, and I'd love every single one of your people to try and buy it or even get it on Kindle and give me a review. Kindle's really cheap. It's like 2.99. It's not about me and money at all. It's really about the message. The message is so important to me. It's a mission of mine to empower children. Children are actually the least empowered demographic. So I didn't even realize that when I wrote it. I wrote it over 14 years ago. So imagine I write this book over 14 years ago. It's hanging out because I at that point in my life had some cynicism, and remember
mhm.
I was used to cynicism in my life, right? So I had some cynicism going on then, and the whole story just came to me, and I think it's a bit very much about me too. I mean, I was bullied as a kid. Yeah, I was a pretty happy-go-lucky kid, but I was bullied horribly, and I used to walk out of that elevator, and if I heard the angst or any kind of argument in this house down the hallway, all I would wanna do is cry and run back into my room and create happy. And I immediately came that mediator to put levity and happiness in the household, and I think that's why dad and I also would kinda kid and laugh and be absolutely hysterical over the silliest things, you know, because all we love to really do is laugh together. And, laughter is the best antidote. It really is. It's the best. I use it with mom all the time. I mean, it's amazing how if my face shifts and I just have a little smile with her, her whole being shifts.
So my question while you were saying all that came up was why, you said it was written, like, over 14 years ago. Why wait
Yeah.
until now to publish it?
I part of me could kick myself because now everybody's writing a children's book, right? Like, if I came out with this book 14 years ago, it would have been, like, insane, and, well, but I really also feel like it's a poignant time. This time that this book is coming out right now is extremely poignant. I mean, kids are more distracted by what is outside of them between the media and the social media and the television and their friends and the competition and all of it, that it is so imperative that we teach them to trust their selves, to trust their own, what I like to call inner wizard. It is so important that they start looking for approval because they trust themselves within themselves, not approval on the outside. That's when a kid's going to grow up into an adult who creates a life they love. Because that's what I'm also showing them in the book is through Danny and Danny's experience. Her parents are just spatting, they're having an argument. You could see it in the background. And Danny's running down to the lake, and she goes down to the lake and she sees her image in the lake. When she sees that image in the lake, the image becomes her sage and starts talking to her about the power within her to create a life she's going to love and that she has the ability to do that. Yet the image also stops because she sees Danny crying and she acknowledges that. And that's a huge lesson for all of us to acknowledge each other's emotions because we want to wipe it away a lot. We don't know what to say. We don't know how to say. We don't, there's a lot of that goes on too.
Yes, for sure. And I think that learning to trust yourself and believe in yourself is huge, especially with what you were just said with media and everything that kids have right in front of their faces. I grew up in the '90s, so I think that I grew up in an age that was we've seen some cool technology, but at the same time, feel like technology today, it's the experiences of growing up are just way different.
Yeah, and it's taking over, and AI is a very interesting piece to it. And I've had discussions with people about this, about children growing up in an age where, and we feel this way too as adults, where what is real anymore? We don't know what is
Hmm.
real anymore, and it's very very scary
It's
in that
scary,
way.
yeah.
So it's very scary in that way. So, talking to kids, I touch upon community in the book. You know, she's got this. Danny's got this just beautiful way about her, so she can bring people together. Right. That's what her sage talks to her about, and that she really has the power inside of her. And at the end of the book, it's very interesting because I talk about how silly and easy it is. And honestly, Travis, it really is. I think part of being an adult or being the victim adult is also complicating our lives. Let's make it really complicated so then we can give ourselves major accolades. It's like everybody also loves the underdog, right?
Hmm.
Everybody loves that sad sap story and people come through. And I think it's beautiful not to take anything away from any of those stories. Seeing someone who has broken in my life, actually, I saw someone who broke one leg and broke both femurs, okay? And literally from I think it was June that he broke them, was back on skis in December, and his doctor said, "No way. There's absolutely no way you're gonna do it." And he said, "Yeah, watch me." So those kind of stories are really powerful, but it didn't make him a victim, right? Right. So we have the ability to turn our stories around really, really quickly. And through this book and Danny and such, I my goal is to have generations understand that they do have that ability to create lives they love because when they grow into loving adults, they will be kinder and they will be more connected to themselves and others around them. And that's the kind of world that I'd like to leave. That's truly my mission. And I'm hoping that people join me on it, whether it's through the book or once I launch the innermagicclub.com. That's going to be a site that is going to be absolutely tremendous for kids to build their skills in social learning. It's going to be outrageous. So that's something I'm working on, and it's going to take some time,
It's
but I'm
great.
excited
I
about it.
absolutely love it.
Really excited. Yeah. Yeah.
And when I think of the word abracadabra, I think of the first thing is magic, obviously. And so, what does magic represent in your life beyond the fantasy element?
So if you look up the word abracadabra, it's actually a word that means create with your word. I don't know
That
if you know that.
I did not
And
know that.
that's really powerful.
That is very
Okay. For
powerful.
someone
Yeah.
like me who that's it's my whole world. And I didn't name it, by the way, because I knew that. I named it. See, these are the synchronicities. Travis White, if I could talk to you about synchronicities in my life, you'd be blown away. I mean, it's just insane what's gone on in so many ways. And it's very fun. And I think when we're in a space, and this is a great lesson that I've learned, when I'm in a space where I'm just more in joy, and I like to say that I-N joy than E-N joy. I'm in joy more than not, and I'm kind of not so worried because worry is just like almost a wasted time, worrying about things that have never happened before. Okay, let's really create that narrative. So that never made sense to me. So I'm not attached nor necessarily worried because I know that everything's going to work out for me. And that's the mantra that I have in my book as well, that I share with children with stickers and the rest of the jazz. But abracadabra means truly create with your word. And that's exactly what I'm teaching Danny in this book. And that's exactly what I'm teaching children is that their words are incredibly powerful, and more powerful is the way they're talking to themselves. So again, back to being your best friend. So everything is like in a cycle. It always comes back. It always goes around and around. And what's interesting about kids, and I'm sure you know this having four, is that they start to lose a little bit of their light, right? As adults, we really do. Somehow it's been squelched out of them. They feel like taking on, and this is great for your older daughter, taking on responsibility means they have to be super serious and their light has to go away. Who said that that was a rule, right?
Yeah.
I was still having fun with my father when my father was 8. We were still having such silly times. It didn't matter.
And my wife will always tell people that she married a man child
Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm.
It's great.
She said that sometimes I'm on the same wavelength as our 4-year-old son. I was like,
Absolutely.
hey, I'll take it because
Exactly.
I know how to enjoy life. I'm not
There's
saying that I
nothing
don't have my
wrong
ups and
with that.
downs, but
Right.
with my moments, but and
But who said that there's anything wrong with that? That you're gonna be taking so much less seriously? I'd rather be, you know, in a state of just joy and awe and excitement over what's next and this planet that we live on that's so incredibly beautiful.
mhm.
As to why our list is growing, Travis, as we said earlier, of places that we wanna travel and such. It's an incredible world that we live in, and, when you lose people in your life, which I did, that you know of, a very, very close friend of mine, and things get super serious, you look at situations like that and you say, "Where's the gift? Where's the learning?" And the learning itself is the gift. you see? So that's when you shift your perspective to always knowing that everything's working out and that there's a learning, then nothing's really good or bad. It's just kind of what is, and you play with it and you start playing with the universe. And then all those things that you want to manifest kind of fall in your lap magically in ways that you would never think would happen.
Yeah. And my problem is sometimes I'm a very anxious driven person. So it's like those moments like aren't always easy for me. And I just hate like the unknown. That's my problem is the unknown. But it's
Yep. Or
something
the
that
waiting.
yep, the waiting too. But it's something that I'm working on every single day to uh overcome, I should say.
I've listened to many, many people in my life, and one very special individual, Esther Hicks and Abraham, would say things like, the reason why it's taking so long to get what you want is because you're acknowledging that it's taking so long. And that, for me, means get super present, get super grateful, and just kind of move through life not thinking that the moment you have now is not good enough, that it's got to be better. It's got to be better. It's got to be faster.
Yeah. It it just reminds me of how today is this instant gratification and we're we don't get that. That's never the case.
Oh, and we literally get frustrating,
Hmm.
really frustrated. I mean, it's just take it down a notch, people.
Yeah, as my
Right?
therapist once
It's
told me, lower your expectations. If your expectations are here and you're just having difficulty, put it just to right here, and you'll actually see an increase in your happiness level.
it's an interesting way to think about it, in terms of lowering expectations. I I I just also feel like I don't know if we need to live life with all of these expectations all the time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like, if we could stay in a space where we're just enjoying what we have and in the knowing that things will work out, and you have different goals and you have different things that you want and you desire, but you don't yearn for them. See, when you yearn for them, it's a completely different frequency where you're coming from lack.
Hmm.
And if you're coming from lack, forget it. Or if you're coming from competition, or that one has it, and you're seeing all of that you focus on everybody else who has things that you don't have. Never going to happen. Whatever you want, that is. So, we come into this world empty handed and we go out of this world empty handed. It's a great line in another Billy Joel song. So because you wake up by yourself. That's a line in his song. It's a great line. And it's true. I mean, we really do. So think about that. When I, when I, the humbling experience of driving 3 weeks with that bag was unbelievable. Everything I needed, Travis, was in that bag. I needed nothing else. I had a storage unit up in Hartford, Connecticut. I had a trunk I couldn't even open, and everything I needed to live was in this duffel bag. And that was the most humbling experience I ever had in my life. And I think that's why sometimes though, listen, don't get me wrong. I love travel. I love really beautiful things. I'm a Libra. I mean, I love love. I love beauty. I love balance. I love all of these great things and great clothes and this and that. Yet at the same time, I could live super simply, just very simply, you know?
In the end, if you think about it, we don't need all that stuff. We like it, and love it.
Right. But media, again, I go back to and I was listening to someone the other day who's, a money master. Let's say we call her, and she was on a pod. I was listening to her, and she said she's met the most miserable people who have millions and billions. It's not about that. It's just really shifting the perspective on, I believe, on what's important, which is the now. And when you start getting grateful, you start to smile. And when you smile, the world changes right in front of you, you know?
That actually reminds me of some comedy special that I saw, like some piece of it where he's talking about people that are ungrateful compared to people that are grateful. And for some reason, the people that are grateful, he relates them to rednecks. And
Really?
yeah, and he's saying that I came from a redneck town, and when I asked so and so down the street how her day was, she'll tell me all of her problems, but at the very end, she'll say, "But I am so blessed to have what I have in this life."
It just stayed all her problems.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. Well, some people would equate gratitude um, with religious studies and Bible. And the middle states are more, and the southern states are into, I lived in the Bible Belt for a while. Amelia Island was part of the Bible Belt in some ways. And I used to make bookmarks with crosses. They were absolute Bible bookmarks, absolutely beautiful, really truly beautiful and special. And because I have this creative brain that just has to keep on creating, and I love working with my hands. I have so many beads under my bed right now, it's frightening. So I I feel that gratitude as a human being is something that is taken for granted. We take for granted a lot of things in this country, you know? And I I believe that when we get grateful for, I'm talking about the really basic things, like 10 fingers and 10 toes. I mean, there are people out there always, always in a tougher situation. And every single one of us is blessed. We can always find something,
Hmm.
that to be grateful for and focus on that for a while, for every day, and find the three things and then add another and smile at another human being and open up the door. I mean, always, the golden rule really works, which is treat others the way you would treat yourself. I mean, and think about that when you decide to become friends with yourself, because how would you treat yourself?
Yeah, it's very true, and I always because there's times where I treat myself pretty bad, but I've always tried to be nice to everybody around me, and that's for one
Mm,
reason. You never know what they're going through.
that's right. It's very, very, very true. And a lot of people are afraid to ask and to meet people where they are because
Hmm.
they're afraid of the answer and they're afraid of intimacy.
Yeah, that's very true. But then I feel like on the flip side, is there's also those people that they get asked the question like, "How are you doing?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm okay. I'm okay." Are you really? Or are you just telling me that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what would the next question be, you think? Instead of saying, "Are you okay?" If you know what's happening in someone's life, you could always say, "So, how are you feeling about?"
Yeah,
you
that's
know? Tell me about what's happening with. So it's also not a closed-ended question where it's
mhm.
a yes or no, where they can, they can respond and would respond, or you share with them how you're feeling about something, because that always opens up the door for someone feeling safe enough to share what's happening for them.
Yes, for sure.
So all of this is all about vulnerability, and getting vulnerable, especially with your partner, is the way marriages stay together, I feel. Getting vulnerable with your partner and also appreciating them every single day and letting them. I really believe that appreciation's the biggest thing for everybody wants to be appreciated and loved, right?
Mhm.
So even people in jobs, what do they want? They want acknowledgement. They'd love more money too. But let's say the money couldn't happen for 6 months. If they weren't acknowledged, they'd probably leave their job.
Yeah, and that small bit of acknowledgement in a job or a little bit of praise goes a long ways.
It's so big, and it's so easy to do.
I totally agree.
Great talk here, Travis White. This is fun.
I love conversations. I always tell people I feel like I'm getting a free therapy session every conversation that I have. 'Cause there's so many
Isn't that great?
there's only
Yeah.
everybody has little bits and pieces that I can pick up on.
Yeah, different nuances to a life well lived, you know?
Yes, for
And,
sure.
and to be able to pass that on to other people is something that I've wanted to do my whole life. That's why, you know, getting into, life coaching was really important to me, and getting certified in that, and neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis and stuff. All of that stuff is really important, but it really comes down to this, the conversation. And in our society right now, we're having less of them because of AI and because of media and television and, streaming and scrolling and, the S's to the nth power. So eh, if we can just find time in our day, every day, to say hello to someone we don't know, give them a smile, right? Open the door, do a kind gesture. I mean, all of this will just kind of spread. I knew the gentleman actually who was the first one who did the pay it forward down in Florida. And he was written up, and I think he was in the media for it, where he paid for someone else's coffee behind him. And then that person paid that coffee, and so on and so on. And that whole pay it forward thing started to sprout across the nation, which was really, really fun. Well, think about that. Think about that for kindness in general, and how much better we'd all feel, you know, in this society. And right now, this world, this our United States and this society really could use a boost of kindness.
Yes, it could. I feel like this is another topic of itself, but we're split in so many different ways.
And yet we're really not.
Yeah.
We're really not. I mean, if you really get down to the nitty-gritty, we all want the same thing.
Y yeah,
It's peace, really peace and happiness and freedom, and just we wanna live our lives.
be left alone, correct?
That's it. We just wanna, live our lives and leave it, as beautiful as we can. And no matter what we do in our life, we are leaving some kind of stamp. You don't have to be a movie star. You don't have to be, because again, we all leave the same way.
Mhm.
I mean, we all really leave the same way. So, you know what? Stop putting so much pressure on yourself, and, get happy in the moment, and just really become your best friend. I really believe that.
just goes back to your book. I love it. I really do love that message.
Thank you
It,
so much. Yeah. And I don't even write that in the book. This is the becoming your best friend is something that I started to talk about literally, Travis, in the past couple of weeks. I don't know how it came to me, but I'm really not sure. But when it came to talking to yourself and the self talk, I used to think to myself on my own, I used to say to myself, I like my company. I go to a lot of things alone. I really do. You know, I've moved so many times, unfortunately, that my community is spread out all over the place. So unfortunately, it's not here where I am physically. And that makes it a little tough on me because it can get lonely.
mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm trying to build new friendships and I'm doing that through different sites like Neighborhood and all of that. And I still go out and I can go out like I did last night for the soccer game, down to a couple of local bars in Bayside and had a blast. Just met people. Because I'm that kind of personality, though. Not everybody's like that. A lot of people, won't go places by themselves, which I understand.
Oh, yeah. I like to go to concerts by myself. That's me. That's how I de-escalate and get my anxiety on track. And my
Oh, that's
wife
awesome.
always tells me that you're that weird guy that stands alone. I said, hey, I can do what I want. I don't have to get permission from anybody else. I don't have to be like, hey, dude, like, uh, are we good to go now? Do you want to go stand over here? No, I can do how I
Yep,
please.
exactly. Exactly. When I go to see Les Mis, the arena concert on Thursday night, I'm going to have tons of tissues with me and I'll probably be hysterical crying in the corner. It's okay. I don't really care. No makeup or anything because it will be all over me. But I figured that that's what's probably going to happen. But I'm happy to go to something like that. In other words, I'm not going to miss out on the things that I want to do because I'm solo. It doesn't make sense to me. I believe I deserve more than that. And if I want to see something, I'm going to go see it. So that's not going to stop me. Yeah. But of course, you want to share your life and there's fun things to share. And I think that's part of why I'm really enjoying being a guest on podcasts as well because I get to talk about this and you've opened the door, Travis White, to so much more here and it's lovely to have a true conversation because lately, like I said to you before, the podcasts have been a little bit different where it's like question answer, and that to me is a bit more boring.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, my favorite podcasts are conversations, so I was like, I that's what I
Ah,
want to mirror, but
exactly.
I want it to be yeah, it's just I just still want it to be the guest story and not my own. So I try not to throw like too much of my own story out there, but
Yeah, it's perfect. Terrific. I love it.
and I would love to you had mentioned you lost a loved one. We discussed this a little bit before the show. I'd love to touch base on that if that's okay with you.
It's still quite raw, interestingly enough, yet it also seems like a year. So imagine that early March. And what is it now? July.
July.
So it's it's incredible that it's not even 6 months and it still feels like a year, but truly my best friend. She took her life when I was actually in the house and I didn't know, so it was overnight. I thank God wasn't the one that found her, yet I knew when I knocked on the door and I couldn't open the door. You just, your gut. And it was a travesty. It was tragic. It was uh, very difficult. And I needed community, which I had. uh, and people would reach out. One person in particular reached out and said, "What do you need?" See, that's where it's so important, right? Because you never know what people need. And at that point, what I shared is I need community. I need someone to pull together a memorial service within 2 days because I have to leave to go get my mother. That's how quick it was. And there was standing room only, Travis, for this individual in a church. And people were outside wanting to get in. It's unreal. And that was 2 days. There were still some people who didn't even know. So the most amazing thing is how much she impacted the people that she met all over the world and in businesses and did not mentally believe that she would be able to do that again. She was reinventing herself and had a very difficult time doing it. And a big part of it was getting off medication. That was very important um, to keep her healthy. And when you start to screw with medication, it's
Well, it's bad. Yeah.
you're not even dealing with what I say to people is actually not even dealing with the same person. And it's very hard to believe that because the person looks the same, sounds the same, doesn't s- and this person was so brilliant that she could talk anyone under the table. So acting was an issue as to how well she is or what, wasn't. But the the astonishing part is you're still reacting to her and with that individual who's going through this in a way that they're not the same person. But it's hard for us to believe that when they're down this kind of a slide, right? And going down this kind of slide. It's as I said to you in the beginning of the show, it's going to be a day that will last for me and infamy that whole week.
And I feel like when you get so far down, especially if you're dealing with depression, among other things too, you almost find it easy to put on a mask in front of other people.
No doubt. I mean, and what's funny about it is we talked about it before. I mean, even when people aren't going through stuff, but you ask them how they are doing, and most people will say, "Fine, I'm fine, I'm good, everything's all right." You know, and it's because we're also in the race, right? We
Hmm.
don't have time. We also don't necessarily feel that the person who's asking that right now, maybe you really want to open up to that individual, and and then we never know what to say
Yeah.
after.
Well, yeah.
It's like we just don't. If someone says, "Hey, I think I said that to someone the other day." They said, "How you doing?" I said, "Well, things could be a bit better between mom and I right at this second."
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. I said, "Yeah, so am I." And that's it. I mean, sometimes it's all you need. It depends on what kind of person you are to open up or not. Though I think it's important to know, again, to meet people, try to meet people where they are. And also it's important um, to forgive yourself because as you can imagine, and I've had these conversations over and over, is, well, Terry, do you think you could have done anything different to that the outcome would have been different, right? And of course, you can't imagine. I mean, I went down that funnel for a while, going over it in my mind of what was said the day before, the night before, and the crazy synchronicities that night. And you say to yourself, "No, actually, no." The gift is that I was there. The gift is that she did choose to do this while I was there because she knew that I'd handle it the way I handled it, you know? And so I know why. And if she had done it after or before when I wasn't there, when I couldn't get there or I couldn't make it there, then I would have been like really upset, you know? But am I going to miss her? Terribly. Every day, every single day.
And is there anything that you learned about mental illness that you may have not grasped before this, before the loss of your friend that you took away from it?
I think I think more than anything, when people make different decisions, major decisions about their life, and life changes, that you have to be really careful not to do too many changes at once. I did it to myself years ago. I was getting married, changed jobs, moved, and I think bought a car or something all at the same at the same time. And it's a little much, and I think I bought a business too, right, that's what happened, and I think it was overwhelming, and there are some personalities that can handle that, especially if you have resources, but there are some people who, depending on how sensitive whatever they're doing is, you have to be really, really careful, and I think that we as humans can get overloaded. And we have to be really super careful and give ourselves again that grace that we need and allow ourselves to be patient with ourselves. Patience is really, really important, you know, and seek the help that we need. I mean, raise your hand. And if you know that you're one of those people that can act, right? That has that way of just saying, "Yeah, everything's okay," and just kinda sweeping things under the rug, and you're feeling different than that, time for help. It's time to raise your hand. It
Yes,
really is.
very well said. And I love you've mentioned it before earlier in the podcast, showing yourself grace. I can't go into that enough because during my hardest times, I was never a person to show myself grace ever. I never gave me any leeway for that because there's been times in my life, and I still do it to this day, where I'm really extremely harsh on myself. And until you learn how to show yourself grace and celebrate the small steps, uh, as for me, I guess I should only speak for myself. I didn't feel like I got anywhere.
Mm, mm. But we do. By
Yeah.
giving ourselves the patience, we're allowing
Hmm.
it first of all, we're allowing our creative juices to flow more, right?
Hmm.
And we're we need to regenerate. That's why sleep is so important, you know? So when we give ourselves any kind of grace at any time, uh, we're literally giving ourselves the permission to regenerate and giving our heart, a nod. And I think it's really, really important to do that, very, very much. So yeah, it was an unbelievable time, and I tried to do my best through it all. You know?
It's it's all you can do is give it your best. Do you do you feel like, because to me you're a very optimistic person, from what I see, from what I know.
Oh, we
So do
think,
you believe that optimism and grief can exist at the same time?
oh, it has to. I mean, it did for me. I think we talked about this before, Travis. I mean, I was literally Abracadabra was came out. I was visiting an area that had not really seen or heard about the book, and I had appointments. I had bookstores to go to. I had events planned. I had all of this going on, and then man, I was like, okay. And I had two appointments that day that I canceled. So we also talked about how it's really interesting, and we have to be really careful about this. You know, people will pretend that everything's okay. And that's when we need to get super vulnerable with them about our lives and give them a permission to be able to share. Okay. And if we see that they need help, then you know what? Have them agree that they do and then get them the help that they need. Because if they're good at bullshitting and they're good at, acting, well, guess what? They're going to act in front of any doctor to get them whatever they need, whether it's prescriptions or whether it's no prescriptions at all. Right. So I think we have to be the people that we care about, we actually have to be their best friend too, all the time and check in with people, see how they're doing. Just check in. What does it take nowadays with the text? I was just blown away, honestly. I mean, and it was disappointing to me, and in some ways it still is. There were so many people that I knew, in this community that never really reached out to me after. Now, it could be because I was the one that was there, and that maybe they're playing a blame game. I don't know what it is, but guess what? It was huge. It was a massive thing that I went through, and they knew how close it was.
It's
Reach out, say, "Hey, how you doing? Thinking about you. You okay?" It's all it takes.
yeah, and
Doesn't take much more.
no, not at all. And I have a friend that you know, we've both dealt with anxiety and depression pretty bad. And I check in on him quite on a regular basis because I know how he gets. And he's actually my concert going buddy when I'm not flying solo. But there'll be times where like, oh, hey buddy, how are you doing today? Be like, oh, I'm okay. I'm like, no, how are you really doing today? So
Oh, yeah.
he'll tell me and go into details. And he's actually told me before, because I know I get kind of annoying with those texts. And I've told him that. I'm like, I know I get annoying, but I really do care about you. And he said, no, it's not annoying because you're one of the only people who reach out to me and actually care as deep as you do. So I won't let it go away. Like I just keep doing it. If I told him if he ever I get to the over the top, just tell me to stop. And I said I won't cut ties, but I'll stop. Might be for a week or two, and you'll get it again, but you'll still hear from me.
That's beautiful, and I learned a lesson in losing someone in my life that I said I can't handle being all these calls every day, you know? It was her way of connecting, and I just was overwhelmed by it and severed. And that's a long, long time ago, but, you learn. I mean, you learn through life, and relationships that we build are really precious, and, I have a friend who has a huge community of people, and the other day she said to me, because I said, I do get really upset if I'm the one who always does the calling, and there are some people who are like that, right?
Mhm.
And I said, "I really feel like it ought to be a two-way thing, right?" Her comment to me was really interesting. She said, "Terry, let me tell you something. I do 80% of the calling. People don't reach out to me." Now, this person in particular has so many people in her life. It's outrageous. the community she's built around her, you know? And the kids and the family and all of that. And it's beautiful in its own right, and it's, to me, super, like, super overwhelming. I mean, I have a sister who thinks I just have so many friends, and she doesn't know the half of it. It's, you know, it's like, I feel like I have nobody, and I do, and I know I do, but they're just, again, they're just so spread out, and there are some people I've chosen not to stay in touch with. And I've chosen also to like you, to the point you said before, it's really important to have those parameters and boundaries
Mhm.
around people that don't exactly support you.
Yeah, if they're
And yeah,
bringing the negativity into your life, you have to weigh out, is it worth it?
yeah, yeah, and it's not always. It just really isn't. Or you're not being supported, or someone's minimizing you, or putting you down in different ways in a joking manner, but it's, for someone like me who's been bullied before,
Yeah.
that just
Yeah,
that triggers that real quick, and I go, "Yeah, no, I don't need that in my
yeah,
life."
yep. I actually had a friend, who, we went to college together, and he's we've always been a group of guys that just joke around with each other, and yes, times we take it too far. That's what people do. But, years later, this was years after college, I was going through a really, really hard time, and I felt inclined to reach out to him, or maybe he reached out to me. I can't really remember. That's not doesn't really matter. But he started joking around and saying all this stuff, and just kept putting me down. So I finally text back and said, "You know what? I don't need this in my life. If you want to be an asshole, you can go do it somewhere else." I said, "But come back to me when you actually want to talk like an adult." And so at that time, I was planning on cutting ties with him. And I think it was about a week later, he said, "I'm sorry for what you're going through, and I'm sorry that I treated you that way. I should have known better." And ever since then, he doesn't joke around like that unless he knows, like, a joke here and there is fine, but when it's continuing and it's just downplaying a person, that's
Yeah,
not okay.
yeah. But this is where we're at with a lot of, I mean, I see it in our society now,
Mhm.
people are one-upping each other in knowledge, they're one-upping each other on experience, they're one-upping each other on travel, it's like this constant competition that's going on that I see. I see it with kids,
Yeah.
right? So, and I think also that, that's it's also in our sports, of course, right? Which I get that, but it belongs there. It's a little bit different, but when you have kids that are on the field, right?
Mhm.
You know, listen, if someone tries, they try. They don't necessarily deserve a award if they're the last. I don't believe that. I don't think that inspires a child. I really don't. So, that's a problem that has been talked about for a long time, but um there are so many ways we can support children now and empower them, and one of the most important things is understanding that the magic is inside of them, and it's always been inside of them. And the magic is inside of us as adults, and it's always been inside of us. And if we start looking at life a little bit differently, that magic will start to manifest in many different ways where you'll be in awe. You'll just be in absolute awe of what's happening, and that's when things get really
Right.
fun. Then when you play with the universe and you just throw things out there and the synchronicities happen and you're like, and you move through life like that, and it's really, really super fun. And because life is supposed to be fun,
So
which is the way I end my book.
and you actually open it up for the question that I've been thinking about. Really good segue is, so you've talked about having an inner wizard? What does that actually look like in everyday life?
So I think it's a pause. I think the inner wizard is like a pause, you know? Uh, you're making a decision, something's kind of big, and instead of just rushing into it, right? You look at it from many different angles, and then you listen to yourself. Just sit with yourself for a minute or two or five, and close your eyes. Just kind of go inside into the silence and see what your gut says to you. Have that conversation with your best friend, you, and see and base that decision on how you think you would feel, of whether it's something you're going to do to someone else or with someone else or whatever it is, right? But do it based on that, on how you would think you would feel. And I think that in itself will open up the door that to that kind of communication and build that muscle and that strength in the self-talk and the conversation that you continually make on a daily basis about the decisions that are in front of you. And it's a skill, right? Like anything else, but it's a skill that you can train your mind and your body to do in terms of listening to yourself, you know? And then when you start doing that to other people and you start slowing things down and actually listening and connecting with each other and putting the phones down while you're with each other. I mean, I don't know how many conversations you've been with, but not once did I pick up my phone and look at my phone,
Mm-mm.
right? So, and we sit there, we hold our phones, right, when we're in the conversation, we look at them while people are talking to us. It pings and we have to look at the
And
text.
it's like
Why
right
is that?
away, like, is it 10 seconds like really gonna matter or whatever? Like, it's gonna matter if it's an
It's
hour later? I,
unbelievable. And you have people that get
yeah,
pissed that you don't you don't respond in 10 minutes. I know. It's over the top, a little nuts. And that's why people get into accidents, because they're texting while driving, because they have to respond right away or they have to see it right away. And all it takes is a split
yeah,
second.
I've
And that's when the now is so important too. When you think about, and there's so many lives. I mean, my girlfriend, there, one split second, one choice will change your life, absolutely change your life. So stay in the moment, stay present, enjoy the conversation that you're in, look eye to eye, actually listen to people, right? Such a different world. So if we could teach our children that and make sure that that parameter is, you're going to the dinner table, here's the basket, where are your cell phones? We're gonna talk like a family. "Oh, dad, come on. No, no, no. I need to do this. I need to do that." "Well, not right
it,
now, you don't.
you
We have an hour and a half together right now, and that's what we're doing. And we're gonna go around the table and we can talk about the mantra that we created as a family, and I wanna know how many times you said that today. And it's no, if you didn't say it at all, you're not putting anybody down. Hey, you'll get it next time. Whatever it is, but just acknowledging people and creating that mantra for a family, by the way, really brings a family together too. It's pretty neat.
I love it.
Just a little added thing I gave
Absolutely
each
love
other
it. And
with 4 kids.
I my daughter not too long ago asked my wife and I, "When am I gonna get a cell phone?" We're like, "Well, when you're 18 and can purchase it yourself." And
Brilliant.
I was like, you're not having when you're growing up." And I said, "So she can hate us when she's a teenager." I said, "We might have like some family like phone type thing, so when she's out and about, we can know where she's at. But no, my kids don't get their own until they can pay for it
Well, good for you. Good for you.
because it comes
Wow.
with too
That's the
much
first time
trouble."
I ever heard that. Yeah. I would think so. Yeah,
Well, I honestly just have a few kind of follow-up questions here,
sure. Of
just like really
course.
simple, kind of close it out questions. What do you feel is the biggest stigma when it comes to mental health?
What do I feel is the biggest
Stigma when it comes to mental health.
did you say thing?
Stigma.
Stigma.
Yeah.
Stigma. Got it. The stigma is that it's wrong to me to be mentally ill. That's the stigma.
Very well said.
It's a stigma. I mean, it's really it's that simple. And the stigma is also the fear that we have of the mentally ill. That's a perception that we have. That's a feeling. It's like a gut feeling when we see someone walking or they're not right or they're talking to themselves and everybody just no one wants to help them. And who was it? Really fine. Keanu Reeves sat. Do you know this story where he sat down with a mentally ill homeless person and literally sat
You
down
know,
next
I
to him and
think I
started
just saw
talking to him
something
about his
on
whole
it.
life? It's a beautiful story. I mean, he is an extraordinary man. Extraordinary man. He just built a whole hospital that's free for people.
Yeah,
He's
that's really cool.
extraordinary. Yeah. That's when people start with that kind of wealth, they can make
So,
so much of a difference in this world and impact. It's just amazing. And it's
yes,
beautiful when they choose to. It's really beautiful when they choose to. Yeah.
for sure. And
What's your next?
where can people where can people find out more about you? Where can people find you on the internet?
Okay, so you'll go to Terry Bean, www.terrybeanauthor.com. And that's where you'll find my books and a lot of the media and the podcast. Your podcast will be up, once we download it and such. And also check out the innermagicclub.com because the innermagicclub.com is right now a landing page that has a lot of the building blocks of the portals that are going to start to open up once I launch. And it's quite an investment and it's quite a undertaking right now. So, but it's fun and it's a mission. And I really, like I said before to your audience, I really hope they join me on it because I think the world deserves more. And I believe that the children can create that once they understand that they can.
Full on agree. I love it. And the last thing here is we covered a lot of ground in the conversation tonight. Is there anything that you'd like to bring up that we did not discuss?
Um, My goodness, no, I don't think so. I mean, it's been an hour and 32 minutes. That's amazing, Travis. I think it's the longest podcast, and I think it's because we just had such an absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful conversation. I mean, it was fantastic. I don't know what you're going to
Yeah.
do with all of this, but
No,
it's
it
really fantastic.
I keep it all really raw and I love these
Wow.
conversations. That's why I do this.
Awesome. Yeah. I don't think anything. I think, I'm hoping that I've dropped a couple of gems. And if anybody has any questions or wants to connect with me in any way, there's the contact page on my website. I'm really happy and so open to conversations. I love it. And I'm here to help anyone I can in any way. And I'm also here to take any kind of criticism and constructive criticism and advice. My hand is raised for it all. I mean, you get to a stage where you just have to, we're all on our own journey, and allowing for that. that's a big one with the mom who's 92. I can't tell her what to do. She's 92 years old. Whatever she wants to do, she's going to do. So that's her journey. And the minute that, that was this amazing sense of freedom. Amazing. So, yeah. So feel free.
Awesome. Well, Terry, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And I know it's a little bit later there than it is here. So thanks for bearing with me. I really
Of
admire
course.
your optimism and your happy attitude that you seem to carry. I think it's a great
Yeah.
vibe to have.
Thank you
Um,
so much. Really appreciate that. I really do. And this has been lovely. So thank you. And best to you and your wife and your kids. Oh my
Thank
goodness,
you.
you're gonna have to send me some
Thank you.
kind of a picture. I'm gonna have to send you books, the whole thing. We'll figure it
My
out.
hands are full for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And thank you to all those that are listening. If this episode resonates with you, please share and leave a review. Thanks again. Until next time.